here in Singapore at Podster Studio, where we are doing an offsite recording of Epicenter. And I'm here with Dr. Ayesha Khanna. Hello, how are you?
Hey, it's great to be here, Arun. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to see you again. Today, we're going to talk about the future of AI in business. And I can't think of anyone better to talk about than Dr. Ayesha. I'm going to do a quick intro about you, but you're going to have to fill in a lot of blanks because, your background is completely amazing. Self-proclaimed data geek. You've had roles or still have roles in government, and you're board member on many organizations, including NEOM, which I'm sure people are quite infatuated with. Maybe one of your most important things is being a staunch advocate of women in tech. And is it fair to say that you are an AI maximalist as well?
We can talk about that.
Yeah. So, how did you design your career path that I think any parent would be super proud of?
Well, when I started in college, I had gone to study economics, and then I moved into computer science and technology, and I started off on Wall Street as kind of a software engineer. Mm-hmm. And my family at that time was super disappointed because they didn't understand why I had become like a back office engineer when they had sent me on, I had gotten a scholarship and gone all the way to Harvard. But I had just fallen in love with the creative potential of technology. And I could see firsthand how traders and risk managers and wealth managers were using it to serve their customers better, to predict how their portfolios would do, and to frankly be more productive. And that's really how it started. From there, I wanted to explore not just in financial services, but then I moved into smart cities. I did my PhD in information infrastructures using AI for smart cities.
When was that?
And that was in 2012 to 2018.
Wow, that they were already talking AI then.
Oh, absolutely. AI has been around for so long. But it wasn't that, it didn't have that tinge of being cool at that time. Yeah. But and then I started off launching my own firm in Singapore because I just saw this gap that whether it was Europe or America or Asia, there were just not enough people who understood how to have an AI strategy, how to build the data platforms and data connectivity so that the AI can work, and then how to govern it. And that's how I got involved in NEOM subsidiary Autonomous or the public boards in the US and the UK, or even the government agency boards here, because it's always two sides that you need to look at. You need to use AI for its full potential, but you have to be very aware of its risks and govern them also. And that's how you maintain not only compliance with the law, but also consumer trust. Mm-hmm.
That is such a fascinating background. And I think today what we want to do is kind of take a dive into how businesses today should be thinking about AI. What would you say is today the biggest misconception that actually businesses, companies, organizations have when it comes to adopting AI?
I think the most important thing people don't realize is that it actually has a lot to do with their data. Mm-hmm. So they begin to get excited about AI and they want to launch into it, but they don't realize that AI has a huge dependency on how they've organized their data, how accessible, useful, and usable that data is. And actually, so there's a precursor event they need to participate in, which is to understand and organize your data. Now, there's a precursor to that as well, which is they need to prioritize their business use cases. Mm-hmm. And businesses tend to have very vague business use cases. Like, I want to improve customer experience. Mm-hmm. I want to have more operational efficiency. But there is a systematic process of taking what the CEO may say or the market may want and translating that one line into 20 to 30 business use cases. Mm-hmm. Each one of them is very measurable. For example, for customer service, I want to reduce the amount of time it takes to answer a query by 20%, or from 15 minutes to 2 minutes. And this is how I will measure it. And this is the data that's required for it. And then you get to what is the AI I will use for it. And And the last thing people focus on, this is as tech people, we're all guilty of this, is that it's so exciting to build something, having done all this, that you kind of forget that it's not about execution, it's about adoption. So you've built a great AI, you've got all your data sorted out, you have the business sponsorship, but let's say you build something that was going to make the life of doctors easier. The CEO loves it, the board loves it, the tech people did everything, but the doctors won't use the app. Because they are not used to it, they don't trust it, they feel uncomfortable. And then what is it? It's just a research project. So I always say that at the end, having a product mindset. Everything that I've talked about is about having a product mindset, which is how would you build a product? And people don't look at AI as a product. They think of it just as a magical thing. And I think that's what we need to change.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the big things that have surfaced recently is you look at, like, for example, OpenAI. A lot of people are using it. I think it's like 250 million, close to 300 million people have already signed up and using OpenAI. But the engagement on it, meaning like how often they come back, is not what you'd expect a product of that caliber to be doing. And I think exactly what you said is that the adoption aspect is so critical. How do you ingrain it into the workflow, into the day-to-day operation, into how you think, and start to change the way that you operate?
100%. That's why in it we call it operationalization.
Operationalization.
It's a terrible, boring kind of word, but actually what it means is that you got to operationalize it. You need to turn the key so it becomes part of the process. And when you think about businesses, it's easier to think about. When you think about B2C, it's a little bit more about personalization, about attracting them to re-click. And of course, Meta is a genius at that, right?
Yes.
TikTok's a genius at that.
Oh.
They know how to keep making you come back by using AI.
Factory.
Yes. But I think for a lot of the businesses, if they're doing, for example, supply chain management, or for example, if you're a manufacturing firm, or just and you have manufactured a lot of engines or something else for buildings all over the world. Now you send your repair people there because sometimes there are always issues. Those repair people go and they can have a knowledge assistant. That knowledge assistant, you can take a picture of the issue. That knowledge assistant can go into all the manuals and tell you what it looks like. And then you can verbally, as you're fixing it, ask it questions. Now, if they don't use it, if they don't adopt it, then it's useless. But if they do use it, we have found that it massively reduces the time it takes for them to do it and increases the amount of satisfaction these repairmen have from their jobs. And it allows the firm to grow because now you have better customer satisfaction. So it's a win-win-win. For the tech team, it's extremely important that the summaries they're getting, the advice they're getting, the AI is well governed. Because the last thing you want is it tells you something, the repairman kind of trusts it, makes a mistake, and it leads to a catastrophe. So there's that angle of operationalization, but it requires the end users to trust the system. And that is why the system must be very trustworthy and governed properly.
Yeah, this is super interesting because I've just learned of how AI is now applied in the auto world, in auto repairs.
Basically, that's exactly.
Yeah, you can take a picture or a video or listen to the problem. And then, I mean, how many mechanics or even us, we've never read our auto manual, right? Why would we, right? And it helps to diagnose the problem much faster. And you know, even with accident, like assessing the how much it's going to cost to repair something. I mean, it's so fascinating. There's so many great stories that are coming out. And I think companies really need to learn how to ingrain this into the process.
I mean, I call it hunting for value. So moving away from things that are considered cool or sexy and really focusing sometimes on the mundane. Actually, the most returns are actually in your everyday processes. If you just looked, instead of always looking for cool innovation projects, just go and look at your everyday processes and know that AI can liberate you from the mundane activities. And actually, you don't let go of people when that happens because you can expand the number of customers you can serve. So you should grow as a company.
Sure, yeah.
And then I like that IKEA actually, when they had customer service agents and they started having AI answer the questions, they started upskilling them by training them in interior design. Because of course they know the product, they know the company, they're loyal to the brand, they understand the customers. Why would you hire outside? It doesn't make any business sense, to be honest, at all. So I really believe that a strategic company uses AI, and then that productivity burst gives you time, extra time that every employee has. Use it smartly, train them, lead them, and you see exponential growth in your revenue.
So now we're going to ask you to put on your Harvard Business School hat. Companies need a strategic framework on how they should look at these things. And I'm sure you're working with companies like day in and day out. How do they actually use AI effectively into their operations? Like what's the, kind of like A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 that companies should be looking at?
Well, they always have to start with their big picture. So they might have a 2030 plan or whatever they have, and they need to kind of divide it. So if you're a healthcare company, one of the largest providers of hospital systems, for example, then you would say, I want to have improved operational efficiency. That may be from your machines, that may be optimizing your space usage, that may be how your staff optimization. That's one thing. The second thing is you say, well, I want to get better customer experience. That starts from the moment somebody walks in the door and they're scheduled to meet a doctor, to when they're sitting and the doctor is taking notes, or really the AI is taking notes, to the point that you're automatically reminded. And because the AI is predicting if you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke before you have it, all the way till the end where you are scheduling your next appointment or have a care circle. And then after that, you have improved clinical outcomes, which is of course very important, which is your diagnostics good? Are your doctors receiving the support they do? Can they look things up? The pharmaceutical companies, do they understand the research? And more and more companies are now also looking at genetics and using AI for that. The reason I pointed it out is because you can see that every company should only have like 2 to 3 goals that they're really broadly looking at. And then you dig down in them and you find those use cases process by process. So then you have an AI registry. So the first thing you do is you have your vision. You should be clear don't have 10, 15 buckets. I think the mind cannot hold more than 3 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And then drill down on the use cases. And once you do that, then the place where people get stuck is they just cannot prioritize it. Because every team has its own priorities. And that's when you need a facilitator, which is why companies like us often come in, or you might have your C-suite like really facilitated. Once you've prioritized it, then you can work on getting the data that you need and implementing the use case. And when you're implementing it, that's where the risk management comes in. So how do you make sure the wrong diagnosis is not given? How do you make sure that the ambulance bed was available when it's supposed to be? How do you make sure that when somebody comes, the AI is not being racist or misogynist or abusive in a customer service chat? And that's very important. There are a whole set of frameworks like the NIST AI governance framework for that. And then finally, it's exactly what we talked about earlier, which is operationalization. Make sure that the people, the employees who are using it are comfortable with it and are excited about it. And that's change management. So like I said, there are just 4 things: your business goals, your use case prioritization and registry, your risk governance as you implement it, and then your operationalization.
And when you're talking about like adoption of AI tools, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like every day there's something new that's coming out, or one of the OpenAI and Claude and just everything is changing, and the pace of change is so fast. How do you decide like which one am I going to use? Because it could be relevant today, and then tomorrow like the better version comes out? That's
a great question. And that's a lot of what we also work on. I think one of the things that most people are concerned about and should be is their data security.
Absolutely.
So when you start with corporate data, right? Personal data, people make their own choices. We are always talking at a personal, contractual level with those companies. But our clients tend to trust well-known cloud providers like Amazon and Google and obviously Microsoft, Snowflake, or highly funded startups that have been funded by well-known VCs like Andreessen Horowitz or Felices, like Claude or Anthropic, like others. And the third thing is they come from countries where they're regulated. So for example, they could come from the UK, like DeepMind. They have something on protein folding now. Or you could have Mistral, which is from France, or a defense contracting company, AI company from Germany, and of course all the Americans. Those are the three criteria on which large companies base the choosing of vendors because it's just too much at stake. Then the question becomes, how much should you build or how much should you buy? Well, in my opinion, you should try to use whatever is out there if it's good and do it in a modular fashion so that your dependency is not so much. So you always need these AI integrators. So there used to be something called system integrators. That was software engineers that would kind of tie your system together. We are AI native, so we are AI integrators and data integrators. Our job is to create interfaces between systems, AI systems, so that it seamlessly gives you the prowess you need, but you are not so dependent on it. So for example, you may decide to use Claude one day at the back end and try to use OpenAI another day. And then you might use Mistral another day or Llama another day. So it depends on what the reason is. But you should try to use things where people have invested literally billions of dollars because you can't afford to do that. But then where you should really stand out is your fine tuning. So for example, if you look at GPT, it's like a high school graduate, or right now they say like a PhD.
90 percentile PhD.
But when you fine tune it on medical lingo or whatever your hospital has or anything else, it doesn't say things like, I have high blood pressure. It says, I have hypertension. These are small things that separate a PhD in medicine versus a PhD in like geography. And so when you fine tune it, you make it relevant to your domain and your customers. That's something you should do yourself because there are maybe one day there will be platforms for it, but keep a lookout for that, but do it. If you're trying to make an AI use case registry, that's something you should do yourself, or you could use some of the vendors like Calibra or Credo AI out there. So I think one has to have quite an open mind, depends on your budget. I always advise people, don't build something which is so hard, and unless that's your unique IP, which somebody's already spent hundreds of millions of dollars building, they'll be good at it. Look for your unique advantage. And that unique advantage means you integrate your little AI or your data with the bigger AI pod out there somehow. But that requires thought. How do you do it in a risk-managed way? Yeah.
Actually, this kind of reminds me, we as a company, we've been thinking about this, because we're operating in the digital marketing space for the past 10 years, 12 years. And the way data has been shared across this industry is, it's not sustainable. Privacy regulations, everything that is compliance that is coming into place. So one of the things that we've been thinking about with our data clean room in the privacy cloud is, rather than sending data everywhere to a third party, actually to create this marketplace where if you're a company and you want to allow some third party, let's say a new AI startup, I'm not going to send you my data, but you can access by building on top of this cloud platform, but never actually take control of the data. Because today, the data compliance, the security, you can't send the data anywhere. And you need to let it reside in a trusted third-party environment, right?
100%.
And so this is how we've been thinking about this. And it's also how we hope to actually activate a lot of AI startups out there, the ones that aren't few $100 million funded, right? Because how else will the small guys grow, right? We may end up with, again, the Magnificent Seven in AI.
And we don't want that, right? I actually think that's such a good point, and I'm so glad your AppsFlyer is doing that, because even if you look at NVIDIA, and I'm a fan of Jensen Huang, like who isn't, right? But we do need...
I didn't wear my leather jacket today, though.
That's
Sorry
right,
about that. It's a bit hot in Singapore for that.
I think that we need to have more competitors in the market. So Cerebras is just going to do an IPO. We know Grok is there. We know there are these hardware companies that are producing chips that are optimized for AI processing. And we need more of that. We don't just need like 5 companies that do large language models. It would be good to have others as well. But it's hard for them to immediately compete because of the huge amount of money they need if they're building foundation models. That if they're startups that are doing applications on top of that, because generative AI, for example, is 80% cheaper than it was 16 months ago, actually the world has never been better. And then, of course, as you said, that leaves the question of data. And a lot of these applications, need access to data, which they can get, not like these other companies just took it, but in a more ethical and responsible manner.
Yeah. So that actually brings up an interesting part, is about the ethical aspect of it. How should they approach AI governance to ensure the ethical use? How do you make sure that, the partners that you are working with aren't actually taking advantage of your data and keeping it for themselves, or using that to build their own product and solution? What's the approach to that? Well,
I really believe the first thing you have to do is manage your internal risk when you're looking at your own data. And I like following the NIST framework, NIST. It's an AI governance framework in the United States. You can also follow the European Union framework, but it really talks about how you should go about identifying and managing AI risks. I teach a class on generative AI for business executives, and I was just talking to everybody. I said, I hope you didn't find it too boring, but I need you to realize that these are systems. It's not a very always exciting thing. Yeah. It's actually, if you follow the system, you don't need to be a hardcore techie. You can be a business leader that makes sure that's governed properly. So for example, if you're going to have something how are you going to make sure that an attack like prompt injections, where you just start saying really horrible things to generative AI and then it gets trained on it, there's a way to prevent that from happening. So whether it's traditional AI or it's generative AI, there are a set of well-known measures that you can take, and there is a system and a framework for them, then I recommend everybody do that. For example, if your AI is biased and is doing something that's against the best interests of minorities or women, then you can find out why it's doing that by looking at the data that's feeding the AI. And so part of that system that you have to follow is called data exploration, and looking for anti-fairness, applying anti-fairness in the data and then applying fairness metrics to it. So I think that's very, very important. People don't realize that this is not... it's a problem, but it's a manageable problem. And I think it's very important to realize. It's different when you think about all the hacking attacks that are happening. That's a much more aggressive, oh my God, like it's between the good guys and the bad guys. There's a race going on in the dark web. But in terms of making good decisions when you're building AI, there are well-known ways to do it. We just don't find enough people doing it because it's been called AI ethics. And ethics, people think is like a subjective thing. Oh, I'm being a good person. It's really not about that. Risk management is now increasingly about compliance, and boards are demanding it because the cost is too high, whether you're fined by the government or whether something happens, in which case you're frankly lose the trust of customers.
So an interesting thought is like this, like for example, in customer service, right?
Yeah.
Today, a lot of it is augmented in some way, shape, or form. Is there like a guideline? Let's say if it's 75% human and 25% AI, do you have to disclose that it's human or it's AI? Or flip it around, if it's 75% AI and 25% human? Do you say like, oh, you're talking to an AI bot? Like what's the ethic around that one?
So that is ethics, because that's kind of subjective. It's not in the law at the moment, but I believe it should be disclosed as an AI. And now we know that there's characters. So AI characters like character.ai, which Google bought or licensed back, had an acqui-hire. People were chatting 2 to 3 hours a day with these AI characters. That's how much time people used to spend on TikTok or Facebook. The level of engagement is so high. And when you have somebody like that, and Sherry Turkle from MIT has said that when we have even an inanimate or something that's not real, synthetic person, robot, agent, we can't help as human beings. But to be empathetic with them, to develop a relationship with them once they start to exhibit social signs. So the chances of that character manipulating us is very, very high. And we know that a lot of people are now having friends and lovers and colleagues and forming all kinds of relationships with AI agents. And we can't tell if they're AI or not. But so then I do believe at some point in more countries, it will become regulation that you have to say you're an AI.
It's kind of like the organic food label.
Yeah, totally, right.
Right? I mean, at some point it's going to reach that,
yes, 100%.
What constitutes AI and what doesn't, what constitutes organic, what doesn't.
And people don't mind. Like, I don't have a problem. If you told me I'm like going to, talk to an AI for some time, I'm fine with it. I don't have, but should I know that it's an AI? Yes. I should know it's AI. And I think you'd find that young people, they won't have a problem with it. But it's the same thing. It's not unhealthy for you. What they will have a problem with is if it's been bought into their space and somebody hasn't checked that it's by a company that's regulated, it's a large public company that is under scrutiny, or it's been funded by very thoughtful investors. And those are the criteria that I think should apply before you let anyone in your house, including an AI agent.
Sure. Yeah. So now we get to the fun part, because I mean, like, I'd love to hear a case study.
Yes.
Of a company coming to you, and you don't obviously need to talk about the company itself, but coming to you with a problem.
Yes.
And how you help to address the challenge that they're facing, the problem, and turn that into the opportunity, and how AI is being leveraged.
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk about healthcare because it's the AI decade for healthcare at the moment.
Good chance for us to live a little bit longer, I think.
I mean, we work in logistics and financial services and pharma and healthcare, but I'll talk about healthcare. So very large string of hospitals, a provider came to us and said, we want to serve our patients better. And they are often frustrated because they are waiting in line for a long time for an appointment. They find our doctors are burdened, but more importantly than that, they have chronic diseases and they are always struggling with managing them. Where this was coming from. So it's very interesting for me to understand why are the board's concerned. And in this case, there's a movement in countries like the US for value-based healthcare. In other words, insurance companies will pay to keep you, Ronan, healthy. But if you get sick, then the hospital will have to pay for it because they didn't keep you healthy. So they're changing the incentive structure. And so a lot of hospitals are now incentivized to keep you healthy. And so to keep you healthy, you need to have data on Ronan, his activities, his blood work, and everything else. So that I can warn you in time. But their data was all over the place. So the first thing you do is an AI strategy, which means now that I understand what your goal is, I need to understand those buckets in which I can achieve this goal. So how do people feel when they come inside your hospital? How do you forecast when somebody's going to be sick or not sick so that you can bring them in through virtual or physical means? And what is the general experience of interacting with you? What's the loyalty they have because you serve them so well? And once we had an AI strategy that includes two parts. One is a roadmap, of how we're going to tackle this and report to investors and the board every quarter of what was achieved. And number two, your data foundation. So the house of AI, if you don't, like any house, if it does not have a strong foundation, it just crumbles. You will have like nice, shiny innovation pilots that you can show people, but you can only serve 1 or 2 or 100 people. To serve hundreds of thousands of people like our client, you actually need a very strong data backbone. So we built them what is called a modern data architecture, modern data platform, where we were able to connect the data, clean it, organize it, and then start powering this roadmap of different use cases. So for example,
and would you guys like help to take what from on-premises to cloud?
Yes, exactly. So from on-premises to cloud, for example. So when that happens, you immediately drop your cost, right? Because you've had so many things and you've had all these people managing on-premise.
Yeah.
That's one thing on the cloud. Then doing what is the plumbing of data called data engineering, which is connecting all the data.
Your favorite thing.
Yes, my favorite thing. I totally love it. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Plumber.
I love it. I totally love it. And so, and then applying use case by use case, right? So we could predict if somebody's going to have chronic heart failure before they would have it. So then what is the automated way in somebody reaches out to them? What are the tests? How do you do behavioral nudges? And so when they come in, then how do you deal with that? If there's a care circle, how do you let people know as they're aging, depending on then you do, just like Amazon does customer segmentation, you do patient segmentation by age, by behavior. So now you're really personalizing their experience. Even though they walk in, they feel like you're really looking at them. And then what is the experience when they're in the doctor's office? And we worked with well-known AI startups to actually, so the transcription could be done as the doctor was talking to the patient, all privacy was maintained, that a summary was generated. The doctor is always in the loop and checks it, corrects it, which further trains the AI. And then immediately their net promoter scores went up, because now the experience of meeting a doctor is somebody's looking at you, not somebody who's taking notes at the same time. So these are so many use cases. When they come in and use a bed, how do you make sure that they are not overspending or underspending the time required to treat them? Because if they overspend the time in a bed, then there's a longer queue, which leads to frustration. If they're underspending, then they're not being treated the best they can. And AI helps in all of these things. And they've immediately seen like better results. Their customers have grown. Their patients are coming back more. They have lower rates of certain kinds of chronic diseases. Of course, it's a work in progress, but you can pretty quickly see that some of these things, when they start working, create revenue growth and reduce the amount of customer dissatisfaction. So for us, that's been one of several really great use cases that we, like case studies that we have on how we took a very large company and we were able to really pivot it into a data-driven company, which is very different than just digital transformation. Yeah. This is digital transformation that's powered by AI. And the whole, if you want to do it this way, it's like you go in, like every process I'm going to put it in. I'm just going to hunt for value everywhere. So you're literally like hunting for value all the time.
And how long does some process like this take? I mean, I can imagine like a hospital, a very old type of institution where probably even the hospital records might be on paper and not digital.
Well, I mean, so this is not one hospital, right? The hundreds that in this case that are owned by one company. But it can take like 18 months, something like that, to get all your data and everything in order. But the way you start doing the data is within 6 months, you start rolling out the AI. So let's say you have a process of your AI strategy and data strategy, which does a assessment of where you are right now and where you need to be. And that can take like 3 months. Then you take 3 months to do your setup, which is your modern data platform. And then after that, you continue to modernize, but you must start showing value. Nobody waits for more than 4 to 6 months. That's the maximum somebody's willing to wait and should wait in this day and age. Till you start showing value. And I'm talking about traditional companies. If you're a younger company, it should happen within 8 weeks.
Yeah, and this is like, you also have to identify the low-hanging fruit, right?
100%, yeah.
I think you look at like what's the lowest common denominator where we can make immediate impact. And a lot of companies actually start like at the front line, right?
Yes.
This is the easy wins, right? And then what you're describing is it's a multi-tiered process.
Yes. I think that's really what you said is the key. I always say go for the low-hanging fruit, prove value.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's an investment. By the way, it's a return on investment that you need to look at. Everything is a business. If you look at it as a research or a cool thing, actually that discipline of having a business approach to it is actually very useful. It's not cold, it's useful because then you make sure things are on time, on budget, and are customer focused.
So rolling back to, just your background and everything that you've been doing from data to championing, women in tech and AI, have you thought about your own legacy and what you want that to be?
Well, I mean, for me, one of the most important things for me is to make sure that there's a lot more diversity in AI. And particularly, I grew up always seeing that girls and women were really kind of left out of STEM and then computer science.
Yeah.
And so I spent 10 years running a charity called 21st Century Girls here in Singapore, where we taught girls and young teenagers and women in their early 20s AI. And it was really successful in terms of influencing them, inspiring them. And then I realized that now more women are enrolling anyway in computer science all over the world. And so I shifted my focus because more and more women started off in tech and left tech. And this is called the broken rung problem on the corporate ladder. Like what happens? What happens 10 years into your role, 8 years into a role to a woman that she leaves? Are they not role models? She doesn't get the price parity that she wants in her salary. She has kids or she doesn't have kids. She has elderly parents to care for, just wants a sabbatical or a mental health break. Why does she feel like she needs to keep all the balls juggling? And if she lets it go, she loses confidence. And also our company's not taking her back at the same level. And so now my focus is for mid-career women. It's called Amplify. And I'm focusing only on mid-career women to educate them on AI, on digitization, how to work with co-pilots so that they're prepared and they have the confidence to lead the flexibility that every woman needs, frankly. We never talk about, men go through many things, but women just from going through puberty to pregnancy to perimenopause to menopause. I mean, these are things we have to deal with. And so this platform is really to provide women the digital skills they need to excel in that world. And so what I'm interested in is that women, from young girls, and there should be no ageism, all the way till they're very senior, should just be powerful change makers in this world. The beauty of AI is it should hopefully kill ageism, for God's sake. It's ridiculous. Like women in their 60s, 70s, they can do great stuff. Why not? So can men. So I think I want to be able to provide that. Right now is for women in their 30s and 40s, mid-career women. But over time, really from when they're like 6 all the way to their 70 or more, they should be able to have productive, meaningful lives as economic agents in society because AI gives them that opportunity to do whatever they want to do.
It's just like AI is leveling the playing field,
yes,
right?
It is 100%. And the mistake people make is usually the people who are afraid of it are the people who have some position they don't want to let go of. And they realize that, as everybody else gets level, they'll have to step up their game. But in Asia, that's not the case. In Asia, people are mostly excited about it because it is a leveler, but that means look at all those people who go up the mobility ladder. And for me, as a mom, I'm like, wow, right now there may be thousands of people who could be co-founders with my kids. Now there'll be millions. Hey, can't get better than that. Now suddenly you have this awesome pool of peers. Each one of them is now been taught in a personalized manner by AI. Each one of them is more empowered so that it's a win-win for everyone. Solve more problems, make more money, have more fun.
Well, I like you say that AI is a leveler. I actually like to think of it as an amplifier.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It brings out the skills that we have and augments the skills that we don't, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's just like, think of AI as akin to like having spreadsheets, right? How it just changed the way that you do calculations and business models and removed error and error detection. And it's just like such a powerful tool, right? But you have to have some foundation of knowledge to start with it. But with that, it just amplifies people.
It does. And that's why my new project is called Amplify.
I know. And I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's so cool. Look, before we wrap, and I think we could probably talk for another hour or two because your knowledge is so depth and breadth in AI and what's going on in tech and data. It's just fascinating. But I want to do a quick fire round with you. Are you down with that?
I totally am.
Okay. So these are questions that you just give a quick answer or whatever. Must read business book and why?
Okay. I think I really love, instead of business books, actually, yes. I want to talk about magazines that I read a lot.
Ooh, okay.
So I love the information.
Okay.
I think that's a great source of cutting edge insider news in Silicon Valley and other places. I also love reading Bloomberg because I think it's more global in how it approaches it. And of course, the Wall Street Journal and the real case studies and interviews they do with CIOs. I think books are great. It's just things are moving so fast that to be in touch with what's happening, it's important to read some magazines that are thoughtful in their journalism, written by great journalists, great insiders, and telling us all about trends that are happening.
If you could host dinner with any 3 people, who would they be and why?
I'd love to have 3 women that I admire a great deal in AI. Of course, one is Fei-Fei Li. She's a professor at Stanford. She is the woman who really was responsible for a huge boost in facial recognition and image recognition. And now she's launched a new company called World's Labs and just raised like a ton of money for that. So she's amazing. She's called the grandmother of AI. Wow. She's very young, but that's how famous she is. I would love to have Geoffrey Hinton, who just won the Nobel Prize and is considered really the father of deep learning. He's the person who really came up with deep learning and really is the architecture which led to all of these humongous breakthroughs in generative AI. And then I would love to have Josephine Teo. She's the minister over here in Singapore because I feel Singapore takes great entrepreneurs and innovators and academics, who are between entrepreneurship and academia, like Fei-Fei Li, like Hinton, and create a country where they can innovate with responsibility. And she has been working on our roadmap for generative AI, for AI. And without having somebody who does governance, I don't think we'd have a conversation about AI. You can have the academic, you can have the entrepreneur, but you must have somebody whose job it is to govern it and to hold these two accountable. And so that's the trifecta that I love. And so there's one man in there, but that's okay.
That's okay. Now, a very important question. Where would you host that dinner?
In Singapore. In Singapore?
Any particular restaurant?
No, I think I would kind of do it at East Coast Park. It's beautiful. It's really, the National Art Gallery has some restaurants right on top. I love art. I think one of the reasons I want to think about nature or art is because it's very important for me to not live in a tech-infused world. So I love trees and nature. So it could be at the park and we could have a picnic. And that would be great. We often do that as a family in Singapore. Or we could see an art exhibit at the National Gallery and then go to the cafe there. It reminds us and anchors us in who we really are. It's not just about the tech. It's about tech to lead a beautiful, meaningful life.
So profound. Upskill or unskill? What's more relevant right now?
Both, totally. That's a great question. I really feel that we talk about upskilling a lot. Certainly,
Yes.
I talk about upskilling all the time. But I myself was recently thinking about the fact that we need to make room, right, in our heads.
Yes.
And unskilling is also important. Like, it's not a bad habit, but this is a habit. And I actually came to this, Ronan, because I read about this study that was done in Sweden where women did not take up tools like ChatGPT as much as men. And they said maybe it's what one of the researchers called the good girl syndrome. The good girl syndrome is where you think you're cheating or you feel bad. And really you're leaning on old ways of doing things. And really what you need to do is unlearn those. You need to now work with the AI. And that requires you to let go of old habits. And so I think that it's a combination of both. And that's what I said. It's like human ingenuity plus artificial intelligence comes together, but not if you're trying to fill your head with all these things. It's a new world. It's a new way of working. And it is that whole cycle constantly of adapting and letting go of things that are not working anymore.
Empty that trash can. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Do you have a favorite quote?
I have a favorite quote. Yes, I do. It's actually by Robin Arzon. She teaches Peloton classes.
Oh.
I love Peloton.
Nice.
And she said at a recent class I was taking, she said, it's not that it was too hard. It's just that you thought it would be easy. And I really like that because I think that whether it's our own passion project that we start, or it's a huge company that's undergoing a transformation, or it's a startup, when you're using AI, or whether you're doing something for yourself, it's a process. It's a practice. It's a daily investment that you make. It doesn't have to be excruciating, but it's certainly, there's no shortcut to it. That's very different from saying agility. I'm still saying you should get something done in 4 weeks, but follow the process. And if you do that, then you can rinse and repeat and scale. So I love that. Like it's don't think it's going to be so easy. And the fact that it's hard is good because that's what makes you gives you a competitive advantage, for God's sake. So that's the beauty of it. If you put it in the work, you're going to lead with AI where other companies are sitting and watching and not doing it.
I love that. And this has been just an amazing discussion together. Thank you so much. So appreciative of your time and your knowledge. And I'm sure people are going to enjoy this podcast immensely.
Oh, thank you so much, Ronan. I had so much fun. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.